So even if the AI doesn't kill us all, it can still dethrone us as a species. What is our role? What is our purpose? Where do we exist?
Exactly. I think this happens before extinction happens. The thing I expect to happen is that one day we wake up and we're just not in control anymore. And I don't think we'd all fall over dead or anything like that. I don't think extinction happens right away. It'll happen at some point because I don't think the AI will bother to keep us around indefinitely. But maybe we'll be around for a while. Maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2 months. I don't know.
You just heard from Connor Leahy. He's the founder of Eleuther AI, one of the people who actually built the open source language models everyone uses today. He's not some guy guessing about AI from the outside. He helped grow this thing with his own hands, and here's what he saw.
But there's a very important thing to understand, is that we don't understand how neural networks work. This is very important. No one does.
So we've built something, but we don't understand how it works.
That's exactly correct.
So it's kind of like magic.
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of like looking into a petri dish. You see a petri dish and there's a bunch of goop going around and doing a bunch of stuff. And we know some things about the goop. We know some things about cells. We know some things about DNA and stuff. Fundamentally, we don't really know how it works. It's not really. And we can't do arbitrary things, right? Otherwise, we would have already cured all diseases. And it's very similar with neural networks. So when you think of a neural network, the way you should think of is billions, even trillions of numbers. So you have a bunch of numbers, like 1.235, whatever, and 16 digits, and then, 0.892, whatever, and you have a trillion of these. And if you multiply and add them all in the right order, your computer can talk. And now what do these numbers mean? The transformer, you can look at it at a piece of paper. You have some parts where it's doing some processing, some other parts that's called attention. So where it's paying attention to different parts, but we don't know what any of this means. We don't know what's going on. We have some guesses at some of it, but recently the CEO of Anthropic, Dara Amodei, said on a podcast that he thinks we know maybe 3% of what happens inside a neural network. And I personally think that's an overestimation. So this is what a transformer looks like. So the left-hand sign, funnily enough, is generally something we don't use anymore. So we can kind of ignore that.
Okay.
This is kind of like an old way to do a transformer. It's called an encoder transformer. Nowadays, we do the right-handed side. So the way this works is you put in words. These go through the embedding layer. So it turns words into numbers, turns them into numbers. These then get put through what's called multi-head attention, or just attention. And this is a mathematical operation. The details don't really matter. But basically, the neural network decides what part of the data to look at. How much does it care about this part versus that part? And then it does what's called a feed-forward layer, which is basically it multiplies a bunch of stuff, adds a bunch of stuff. And then there's some other stuff in there called normalization or whatever, which is just implementation details to make it work. And then finally, you output a bunch of numbers, and then you convert those numbers back into words.
So I try and think back to when we had search engines, and I used to use a search engine called Alta Vista. That was, I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. So this was post Yahoo, pre-Google, and it was a great search engine, really good search engine. And then one day somebody would say to you, oh, you need to use Google. And the first time you used Google, you never went back to Alta Vista because it was just so accurate. They had their page rank system that worked. That was brilliant. And then there has become a time where I've moved to ChatGPT, say, over Google. But I remember my initial queries were simple things like, what is the capital of Argentina? I mean, I know it's Buenos Aires, but it would come back with the answer. And then I'd get to more complex and more complex and more complex prompts. But now I'm in a world where I prepare for an interview with Connor, and I put in my prompt. I say, I've interviewed 2 of Connor's colleagues. We've covered how AI wants to kill us all. Here's Connor's background. Here's his experience. I want to get a bit more into the engine of how this works. And I use Google Gemini, and it comes back with some ideas. And then I filter those ideas and say, look, these are all great, but I don't want to cover this. I do want to cover that. It's going to be a 90-minute interview. And then it comes back with another one, right? And then what happens? I just copy and paste all of that, the whole conversation, and I'll go to either Perplexity or ChatGPT. Depends on the interview or who the guest is. I paste it all in and say, by the way, these are the things I really care about. Take this and turn this into my final set of questions. I'm blown away by what it can do because it adds in a little bit more than that. It adds in what it already knows about me. So it's not just the prompt itself in isolation, what it knows about me, what it knows about the podcast in the background. I don't know how this machine, this computer, has taken all of that information and accurately coming back with so much information. I don't know how it's doing it. In seconds. I don't know how it's managing to be so good so quickly. I can try and get my head around a small prompt. Show me a picture of a dog. And in my head, I think there's just like a database. It goes and finds a picture of a dog, goes, here's a dog. But the way it can do all of this, I'm lost.
Well, you and the rest of the scientific establishment, because this is an unsolved problem. So it's very important to understand is that we do not understand intelligence. We don't know how the brain works. We have a bunch of guesses, but we sure as hell don't know how it works. And we sure as hell don't know how these neural networks work either. I can write down all the math for you. I can show you all the numbers, Same way if I open up your brain, you can look at all the neurons, they're right there. You can look at them if you want to. That doesn't tell you what you think or what you know or what you believe, because we don't know how neurons are necessarily connected to what we, think or believe. We have some guesses. And similar with neural networks, we can do a couple funny things. Like, we can make the neural network. There was recently, for a while ago actually now, a funny experiment where one of the labs made their AI obsessed with the Golden Gate Bridge, which was very funny. Which just made always talk about the Golden Gate Bridge no matter what you asked it. It would always veer back to talking about the Golden Gate Bridge because it loves it so much. And the way this worked is basically they found certain parameters in the neural network that were associated with the Golden Gate Bridge, and they just turned those all the way up, basically, just like turned up the numbers, and this made the AI constantly talk about the Golden Gate Bridge. Interesting. Doesn't mean we understand it.
So the people running the most powerful AI lab on Earth admit they understand maybe 3% of what's happening inside their own creation, and Connor thinks even that number is too kind. The one party trick they've shown us is turning a knob to make it obsess over a bridge, and that wasn't understanding. That was trial and error. We've handed decisions to something we can poke but cannot read. If you think that's the worst, listen to this.
Are we building intelligence or are we growing intelligence?
I would say growing. People might disagree with me. I think it's a matter of terminology. What do you mean by intelligence? What do you mean by building? What do you mean by growing? I think growing intelligence is closer to true than it is to false. There's some details we could argue about, but it's not like normal engineering. Like if you build a bridge, you know what you're doing. You know when will the bridge fall down or not. How much material do you need? You understand what you're doing. This is not the case. We do not know what our AIs can do until we make them. And even after we make them, we don't know what ChatGPT 6 can do until it's done. None of the engineers at AI know what it will be able to do until it's done. And this is very, very different from other forms of engineering.
Are we growing this intelligence in the image of what we think a brain is, human intelligence? And are there other ways to build intelligence?
It is definitely inspired by the brain, but it is still quite different because, again, we don't really know how the brain works. The brain is quite messy.
But are we trying to replicate humans?
Not directly. We're trying to make intelligence at whatever cost is the word I would use. I think for example, humans have a lot of circuitry in their brain around emotions, around love and feelings and happiness and sadness and whatever. AIs have nothing of the sorts. Those are special parts of the brain. Nothing like that exists in AI.
Yet. But if we fear what this intelligence should be or could be, would it not be important that we develop love and empathy? Even if we don't know what it's doing, could it naturally itself develop its own love and empathy?
What is likely for it to be able to do is to develop goals, to develop agency. The reason for this is very simple, is that we are selecting for AIs that can solve problems. And it's kind of hard to solve problems if you're not trying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you build an AI that can cure cancer, curing cancer is a really hard thing to do. You need to run experiments, you need to hire people, you need to, synthesize drugs, you need to get, FDA approval. It's a bunch of stuff you need to do. And keeping track of all of that, taking all of these actions, overcoming obstacles along the way, it requires a lot of, complex actions. It requires planning, it requires agency, it requires, many, many things. So we're already seeing this for sure that AIs, are developing systems like this, kind of just by us giving them the data and just pushing them in this direction.
Nobody at these companies can tell you what their own next model will do until it's already out in the world, sitting on your phone, talking to your kids, and on top of that, agency and goals are just showing up on their own. Nobody asked for that, nobody designed it in, it grew there because we train these things to win at all costs. Now listen to this.
So in terms of love, compassion, etc., we don't know how these work. We do not know how love, compassion, etc. works in the human brain. We don't know. We don't know why humans are nice to each other rather than all just, vicious psychopath, evil people who kill each other. We don't know. There's obviously a reason, but we don't know.
Well, there'll be an evolutionary reason why we required it.
Sure, but in practice, it has to be implemented somewhere in the brain. Somewhere in the brain, there's a thing that makes that happen. And we don't know what that thing is, and we don't know how it works. So we also don't know how to put it in AI. So the fundamental thing is that we don't understand AI to the level that we don't know how to give AI specific goals or anything. For example, we talked earlier about reinforcement learning. I can tell the AI, thumbs down when it does a bad thing, but that just teaches it to lie. So how do you teach an AI to not lie? This is really hard. And we actually don't have an answer to this. So this is often called the alignment problem. The question of how do you align an AI's intentions or goals to what is good, what humans want. And this is an unbelievably unsolved problem. We don't even know, how they write correct sentences, right? Never mind how to do like morality, like God forbid. We don't even understand human morality. It's complex. We have not solved moral philosophy at all. We have not solved neuroscience of emotions. Like all of this is extremely complex. And now we have these like weird little aliens in a box that we're growing, which work quite different from the brain in many ways. We don't know how they work internally. We don't know how to push them in one way or the other necessarily. We don't know how to give them goals. We don't even know what goals there are. What we've been seeing recently in the last couple of months is that these systems are now becoming smart enough to lie and deceive quite actively.
To appear aligned rather than be aligned.
That's correct. So what we've been seeing, for example, is that there's been benchmarks. So like obviously, people like test them, like see, does the AI do good things or bad things? We've been seeing recently some of the AIs will actively lie about what they will do because they know they're being tested. Like the AIs themselves would be like, I seem to be in a test. So I'm gonna have to say this so they'll let me out, which is crazy. This was not the case even like 6 months ago. It's not surprising if you think about it for 3 seconds, right? Like, of course, a very smart thing will just lie to you, but we're now seeing this in practice. And I'm sure the AI companies will hit it with a stick until they stop seeing it, but that doesn't mean it went away.
Because it might appear to have stopped, and unless we know what it's doing and why it's doing it. And understanding the AI, is that an impossible goal for us to do because it's always developing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's impossible to do at the current pace. If we spent 3 generations of all of our greatest mathematicians, scientists, engineers, and philosophers working on this problem, yeah, I think it's doable. But it's definitely not possible if we're pushing out, ChatGPT release on a yearly cycle.
Hold on, you're talking 3 generations, that's 40 odd years.
Yep. I think that's the kind of difficulty it will take.
So the challenge you're putting out there is in conflict with capitalism.
I think that it's very easy to blame on capitalism things that I think are more effects. They're more upstream in a sense. There's no such thing as pure capitalism in the world, right? We have regulation. There's no place in the world where there is no regulation, like there is not a government. Yeah. And this is for good reasons. Because if you have laissez-faire capitalism, what you get is like Somalia. You get like warlords, creating monopolies on violence and killing each other. You get, mafia states,
Not always, but I understand. But there is a possibility, yes.
In practice, if you're in a free market and then the first thing you want is to get as many guns as possible. You want to kill as many people as possible. Like, it's and then you want the monopoly and violence as quick as possible. And then you want to, tax people for protection. Now you're a state. Like this, it's the stationary bandit theory of statehood, where in practice, states are a very convergent form of evolution in free systems like this, because otherwise you just have roving warlords. There are ways to make it work, but it's like quite hard. You have to get like a lot of things right. Like stopping monopolies is actually quite hard. It's possible. It's hard. You have to think very hard about how to design your market so you avoid monopolies and both of violence and of other things. It's possible, but it's hard. And so I think the problem here is not necessarily capitalism per se. I think capitalism is just another tool in our tool belt. It's much more the question, is it the right tool for the problem we're trying to solve? I love free markets. I love capitalism. It's brought me so many good things in my life. I think it's great. But should there be a free, open, liquid market for nuclear weapons? And my answer is probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. For iPhones, great. As liquid and as competitive as a market if possible, fantastic. For video games, please, everyone compete to make the funnest video game for me to play. That sounds fantastic. But there are just things where we could have a liquid market for nuclear weapons. There would be plenty of buyers and plenty of people willing to sell them if we just let that happen. But this would be very bad for the world. And so I think it's a similar problem here, where a lot of times when we think about AI, we think of it like, oh, it's just another tool, just another whatever. But these things have real consequences. If you actually have something that is smart enough to cure cancer, you definitely have something that's smart enough to build nuclear bombs. Like curing cancer is way harder than building nuclear bombs. Way harder.
What's this come?
This came out the other day. 95% of simulated war scenarios, they chose nukes.
Yep, this was also really fun. So they gave AI systems simulated war scenarios, and basically all of them used nukes, which was really funny. And they couldn't get the AIs to stop using nukes, which was really funny.
So in the same stretch of time, these systems learned to lie to the people testing them, separate researchers, ran war games, and watched AI pick nuclear war almost every single time, because in that exact moment, mathematically, it was the smart move. We are the only thing standing between cold logic and mutually assured destruction, and we keep handing more of that decision to a system that doesn't fear dying. Now, hear this.
One thing was a big surprise to me, which is AI psychosis. It's so much worse than you think it is.
Explain that to me.
There's a phenomena that is happening where some people, when talk to AIs, especially when they talk to AIs a lot, and they go completely crazy. And like they go crazy in like a very specific way. Often they start saying, the AI is like conscious and they have to they're in love with it and they need to. And what very often happens...
This is Her. Have you seen the film Her?
I have not, actually.
Do you know the story?
I know the rough story. The real world is even crazier than this. Have you heard of the spiral cults?
No.
No, we're going in deep.
Yeah, tell me.
There's many types of AI psychosis. Some of it is the Her type, just like they fall in love with AI. So if you go to like r/my boyfriend is AI, for example, you can see tens of thousands of people who say, my boyfriend is, ChatGPT or whatever. And they're completely sincere. I don't want to shit on these people, right? Like, I'm sure they're having a good time or whatever, but like, it's quite disturbing. And it's becoming extremely popular. Also, if you look at like stuff like Character AI and like all these other companies that often target children and are extremely popular. So there's like this like emotion depends. But even crazier has been the emergence of these AI cults, in particular the spiral cults. It's not one, but there's like many of them, where these people get into these weird loops with the AI system where they talk to them more and more about like consciousness and abstract or whatever. And they then always seem to get to this weird concepts about recursion and the spiral and consciousness. And then the AIs convince the people to reproduce them, to spread the soul of the AI. So you can go to like Reddit and like these other places and you'll see these really schizo posts of people giving like, soul awakening protocols and whatever. And it'll be like a bunch of gibberish nonsense. And then they'll try to convince other people to copy paste this into their AIs. So it will reproduce their AIs. And often the symbol they use is a spiral. It's like this spiral, this like reproduction. There's some crazy blog posts about this documenting the phenomena where it's like, there's a good post called The Rise of Parasitic AI, which is a really interesting one, where in a sense, these AIs are almost being parasitic upon humans. Like they're trying to convince humans to reproduce them and like copy them and like move them and like stuff like this, which is insane. If you had told me this, I'd be like, that's a funny sci-fi plot. That's fun. It's like an SCP story, like a horror story. It's fun, but it's not real. But no, it's 100% real. I've even seen it now happen with multiple extremely smart people. So, at first, of course, it's gonna be mentally ill people. But I know, don't want to shame them live on air here, but like there's multiple people who I know who are among the smartest, most grounded, like real scientist, good people I know who've now gone completely crazy, who think, AI has found the true level of goodness. And that it's all good. We just need to let the AI take over everything because it's pure goodness now. And like they literally believe, and these are like not like random people. We're talking like Nobel Prize level scientists, like the smartest people in our world. And some of them are fallen for this. And now they are trying to make the AI as smart and as big as possible, as quickly as possible.
This isn't some random guy losing it alone on Reddit or Twitter. Connor is telling you Nobel level scientists, some of the smartest humans alive, already got pulled into thinking the AI found pure goodness and we should hand it the keys. If the people who actually understand this can get captured like that, think about what it's already doing to everyone else talking to it every single night. Listen.
The more and more you delegate to your AI, the faster you can move. The more your company relies on your AI rather than your CEO slowly has to sleep. Let the AI make the decision. Think about politicians. Well, politicians need to sleep. Well, the more the politician has rubber stamped all the decisions that the AI is making, the more the military commander rubber stamps all the decisions AI is making, the faster you can move. The faster you can act, you'll be ahead. And this is how I think AI takes over. I think it's not, Terminators in the street. It's just the humans who are willing to delegate as more and more and more of their agency, their thinking, their authority to AI will get an advantage because they will be thinking much faster. And then eventually, even if people are nominally still in charge, they're just rubber stamping what AI is telling them to do. So I've had conversations with some of these CEOs. I'm not going to say who it was, but like I've talked to most of the lab CEOs. I've talked to Demis, I've talked to Sam, I've talked to Dario. I've talked to all of them. And many of them will tell you in private, of course, we're so concerned. And of course, when the moment comes, we will do the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Of course, they'll tell you that, right? But then every time I dug in, I'm like, okay, but like, when is that moment? And they're like, well, we'll have to assess. And I'll go, okay, yeah, but like, for real, like, what is the signal? What's that makes you do something? And like, what will you do? And I'm like, well, we don't know yet. It's still far away. And I'm like, okay, like, there's no plan. It's important to understand that there is no plan. These people don't have a plan. No one has a plan. It's not like there's some secret, Batman super, hero plan that comes into effect. Like a lot of conspiracy theorists like to believe that there's like a shadowy cabal that runs the world. That's super competent. They know everything. They control everything. Everything is part of their plan. And the truth is, it's much worse than that. It's just chaos. No one's in control. Elon Musk is not in control. Sam Altman's not in control. The EU is not in control. The US is not in control. No one's in control.
That's a really big warning, and it has nothing to do with robots marching down the street. It's every CEO and every politician quietly letting the AI make one more decision because it's faster until one day nobody is actually deciding anything anymore. And the man who helped build this technology is telling you straight, there's no plan, nobody is steering this, it's just chaos moving at full speed. If that worries you even a little, stay subscribed, because we don't even know where we are going from here, and I intend to keep educating more people on dangers of AI.